This is a classic case of elephants trying to show dominance over each other and just horsing about the place. It is amazing. And the sound of their skins rubbing against each other. Look at the four of them there. A shame, the little one is excluded to the left-hand side there. The very little one is now going to seek the company of his mum. The older kids don't want to play with him. This is fantastic to see. So Sandy, I don't think they're more unpredictable. I think if you understand their behavior, if you understand the things that make them upset, I think they're pretty predictable. But you just never know when you see them what they have experienced. It is very seldom that an elephant will just turn and be angry with you or change its mood. So these elephants here are pretty calm around us. The large one off to the right-hand side is definitely listening to me or listening to something down in the drainage line. I'm not sure what. So were her mood to change, I wouldn't be that surprised. I'm not sure why it would, but I wouldn't be that surprised if she was to turn and shake her head at us. The thing with elephants, though, is that if you don't know what they've been experiencing, you can come across them and then get a surprise. But if you watch them carefully, they will just about always give you an indication of how they feel. Of course you can make a mistake. Of course you can misinterpret the behavior. That's entirely possible. But I don't think they're completely unpredictable. These chaps are having a right old fight. Two young bulls trying to show each other who's boss. And there's Tusk. Oh no, she's got tusks, this one. And the little one just lay down there, just got up. And of course, a little elephant of that age, probably about 18 months, doesn't have to eat so much, so they can afford to play around a bit. The big adults, well, I mean, they're eating probably 18 hours a day. And this one just playing with a stick, while its bigger brothers and sisters play with each other. Moshe, a very nice question as we watch these chaps horsing about in the coolth of the morning. And the little one getting in the way and getting bashed unceremoniously out of the way. Moshe, you ought to know how they cope with the heat in the summer. Well, in a number of ways. You say, especially in the case of a water shortage, how would they cope? Water is not often used by elephants as a cooling mechanism in this area because there's often not a lot of it. But sometimes they will swim to be cool, but they don't have to swim. Yes, drinking does help them to cool down, I suppose. But it's not necessarily always the case that they have to drink to cool down. They have to drink to maintain their diets and to maintain the digestive system. They remain cool by standing in the shade. They remain cool by covering themselves in mud. They also have these remarkable ears which differentiate them from the Indian elephant or the Asian elephant. And these enormous ears have a network of veins that transport all of the blood in the body in about 20 minutes, goes through those ears and into the brain, so that keeps the brain cool while the body might be getting hot. If you look at them now, this is a big cow that's come up from the drainage line. And she's watching us quite carefully. This is wonderful. Hang on a second. That's close enough. She's fine. She's not giving us any indication that she feels threatened. think this youngster's bored, and so he's just coming to say hi. Hello. That's just wonderful. So Moshe, they also don't have any hair on them, of course, and they're also very big. Now, if you're very big like this, what it means is that you take a long time to heat up, which means they can be out in the sun for longer than smaller animals without heating up. They then do take a longer time to cool down, but it does mean that they heat up slower than other animals. So that's basically how they keep cool. How very wonderful to have another experience like that. I always feel truly honored when an elephant comes that close and doesn't react to us at all. Very peacefully feeding through the woodland here, browsing largely. I'm afraid the grass is probably pretty much finished for them, and while they would have spent most of the summer looking for grass, as we go to the dry season, they'll start eating more and more leaves and bark and twigs rather than the grass. And a very poor grassy season for them today, this year, because we had so little rain. I always find it so useful to look at animal behavior or elephant behavior from the point of view of human behavior, and the scientists will tell you that's called anthropomorphizing things, and that you shouldn't do that. And to them I say, piffle, nonsense. These elephants behave so like human beings, I find. We'll just watch here, Dave. That tree's about to bite the dust. Bad luck. Sisyphus. A tree won't die, everyone, but it will obviously be remarkably changed in shape as a result of that elephant. So elephants generally behave like human beings do. You can predict how the young males are going to behave. They box with each other. They sort of sort out who's who with a bit of physical play fighting. Sometimes it escalates into real anger. The young cows don't do that. They tend to stick with their mothers or in small groups, and they tend to just behave in a much more gentle fashion than do the young bulls. And then the cows move around and kind of just put up with the young bulls, but they don't in exactly the same way as if you imagine, I don't know, a group of women taking their kids out for a day out, or they will kind of keep the youngsters away, the young bulls away. The young boys will go play on their own. The cows will chat together and feed and do what they have to do. It's almost exactly like human beings, I find. I did set across to Steph. We'll sit here with these elephants a bit longer. He has got something with 8 legs to show you.
At least we haven't found anything that's in a hole at the moment, and we found something that's on the grass, and this is an orb-web spider. There are many hundreds of orb-web spiders. This is one of them that I don't know, but definitely an orb-web, and she is hiding inside the inflorescence of this grass. And I know it's a she because she is web-living and sedentary, and males of this species of orb-web spider are usually nomadic. So males of the orb-webs walk from female to female. They're usually up to 100 times smaller than what she is. There she goes to the middle of her web. Oh, she's caught a fly. Yes. Look at that. So she felt vibrations on her web. Right here. From where she was hiding in her inflorescence, she has felt a fly into her web, has come down, wrapped it in silk, and then envenomated it. And the fly is hanging upside down. She's now upside down. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Have a look at that. Isn't that wonderful? That fly is probably no more than a millimeter. I'm going to see if I can put my fingernail close by. You can see how difficult it is for Brian to actually get. There she goes, there she goes. She's going back up to her larder. Typical of the orb-web spiders is to have a larder, and she will then eat her fly in her grass shelter, and you can see how cryptically camouflaged she is. And that's literally so that she can stay hidden and won't be preyed on by birds. Brian doing a heroic job of actually keeping her in the frame. Wasn't it phenomenal? With all the wind blowing around today, with us speaking into her web, she still managed to distinguish the vibrations of a fly trapped in her web from easily 30 or 40 centimeters away, a foot away from where she was. Came down, plucked it out, and there she is. You're now looking at her dorsal view, in other words, the top part of her, and you can see that on her abdomen she's got those wonderful markings, and that is what you'd use to identify her in a spider book. Is you'd go to the orb web section. I think they are called Arachnophobia, the orb web spiders, and you will then use that very cryptically colored. Let me give you some scale. I'll put my thumbnail next to her so that you can actually see how big she is. Give you an idea of the heroic effort that Brian did in trying to keep her in focus. She's a tiny, tiny little spider. Enjoying her fly breakfast with those striped legs and that quite cryptic black mark on her abdomen. That is what's going to be distinguishing her from any of the other spiders. And those colors that Brian just is getting, that's really amazing. There you can see her busy chewing through the fly. So what she's busy doing, she's mashing up that fly with her mouth parts, turning it into a type of jelly, and then she will suck out the insides and drop or discard the husk of that fly. Now flies are quite soft-bodied, harder-bodied insects. The venom actually turns the inside of the insect to jelly, and then she sucks it out, and then will use the discarded remains of her prey to further fortify her shelter. It's a very common thing that these orb web spiders do. And this year we've seen very, very few spiders, very few of these orb web spiders. She's one of the latest. That really was fascinating. Well done, Brian. That's awesome. Go from something big like your elephants that you're with to something tiny like this little orb web spider, and we got to see her hunt. So hunt and kill. Hopefully James won't be hunted and killed by the elephants he with, and off you go.
Now this cow, who we saw a little earlier, was the big one that I said possibly was listening to us, and she's listening to us still. And she's the only one out of this herd who I do feel is not perhaps as comfortable as the others are. So let's just let her walk past. We're going to sit very still. And I'll talk you through my thought process here. My thought process is that she's not upset enough for us to move. If she shakes her head, I'm going to start the car and move away. She is smelling us. I think she's definitely lactating, so whether she's pregnant or has a young calf, I don't know. She's not indicating discomfort, she's indicating interest. She's trying to smell us. There's some fairly intimidating spikes she has on the front of her head. She's sitting at about 5 meters from us now, 15 feet. Maybe 3 meters. 10 feet. And she goes, looking into her deep amber red brown eyes. And she's watching us, you see. See how she turned her head towards us slightly as she walked past? She's still watching us. Look at her face. No, Those eyes blinking quietly. She's the only one in this herd that's paying us any attention whatsoever. She may well be the matriarch. I think she is the biggest cow here. She looks to be probably the oldest. You see, that is classic displacement behavior, where she's considering her options, taking responsibility for the rest of the herd. I think she's pregnant. She's got a real kind of a heaviness about her belly there, just in front of the tail. So maybe she doesn't have a youngster with her, and maybe her lactating is coming as a result of a new calf about to be born, which is very exciting. Isn't that interesting? I find elephant behavior fascinating. You can talk about it for days, but you see, animals are not unpredictable. She told us how she felt. As we got in here, she told us exactly how she felt. Just by looking, lifting her head up slightly, opening her ears a little bit. And you don't have to be an expert in animal behavior to understand this stuff. All you have to be is slightly aware. And Dave, I mean, I'm sure you got exactly the same sense as I did. So Dave, I mean, you've been out here, what, a couple of months now? 8 weeks. And Dave's already getting a sense of what that elephant was saying, even though you're not looking at the behavior necessarily so much as getting a sense. Yeah. And absolutely they're communicating that to us. The rest of them couldn't care less. She's watched us the whole time that we've been here. I think it's fascinating. So Chris, you're in Australia and you ask, a very nice question that dovetails with what I was saying. You're saying, what's the main thing to look out for if you happen to be self-driving in, say, the Kruger National Park, which you're able to do with elephants? I think the key things, Chris, are to approach slowly. If you feel at any stage nervous, to increase distance between them. Do not try and stand an elephant down. There's no point in doing that. And secondly, to go in with an open mind. They will tell you how they feel. You will get a sense of their... If you feel uncomfortable around a herd of elephants, move away. And it is uncanny, the more and more I kind of accept that this is what they're doing, that they do talk to us in some way, or shape, way or form. The more sensitive I become to how they're feeling and how each individual is feeling. So this one here, who's very young, probably about 8 years old, young bull, he's watching us, but he's not irritated by us at all. He's come to have a bit of a meal around where we are. Look how he's breaking those trees. And he's doing it because, well, he can have a bit of a meal, but also because he's interacting now with us. He's having he's a little bit bored. Sorry, let me get out of the way here. He's a little bit bored of his life, of just eating food all day long. And so I think what he's doing is just coming to say hi. Seeing if there's any entertainment to be had from us here. See that, opening his ears out. Now he's a bit nervous. He didn't want to come back. Jennifer Kay and a few others, you saying that the elephants here are reacting to Sam's little elephant, which is now stuck to Wendy's dashboard. So I don't think so, but maybe they're just jealous of the fact that I gave Sam's elephant a flower to eat this morning. That cow is still watching us. She's still watching us very carefully. See how she's lifted her head up? Her trunk is off the ground. While those two fight their way down the road, if you can believe it, the arachnophile has found another arachnid.
Alrighty, we have definitely had a good morning this morning in terms of finding these most bizarre things. So we've got a couple of answers. Before I even go into that, we've got a couple of answers on the frogs. We've got a Trevello sand frog, or we've got a snoring puddle frog that have come through. Both of which are good answers. The sand frogs and the puddle frogs are good answers. I'm going to have to get back to camp, and I'm going to have to go and have a look at both of those. Sand frogs, Trevello sand frog, yes. Distribution, perhaps not that much. And then the snoring puddle frog, distribution spot on, but I'm not too sure about that smooth skin. But past that, we've come down. I came up to this bush because I wanted to have a look at what flower this was. Didn't know the answer to that. Sat down and immediately noticed two black spots. I don't know if you can see those two black spots there. Can you see them, Brian? Two black spots which caught my eye, and those two black spots are attached to the most bizarre spider I have ever seen in my life. See if you can see it. Brian will let me know when so he's on it right now. Have a look at that. That is a spider that's probably half as big as my palm. It stretches from there is the point of his leg, right to there is the other side of his body, and the body is here. Now this is not a spider that lives in a web. This is obviously a spider that uses camouflage to hunt. And I'm going to go so far as to say that this particular spider is a lynx spider, one of the lynx spiders. Lynx spiders are a collective name for spiders that are very active little hunters. And I'm going to say again that I think this is a male lynx spider. I'm not too sure of exactly what species this is. Those green spikes, the green color in these leg spikes, I actually have seen the spider portrayed in a book before. I never thought that I'd ever see one. I've never seen one before in person, and so the name has just bypassed me. But this very spiky legs, they use these legs to fend off the mouth parts of the prey that they eat. So he'll use his legs to block off a struggling prey. Probably find that he eats grasshoppers, being his size that he is at the moment. He eats grasshoppers. But what I actually want to talk about is this male spider. Why I think it's a male. I think it's a male because of the pedipalps. Those black boxing gloves that he's got on the end of the pedipalps, which are there in front of my piece of grass I'm holding. The pedipalps are what male spiders use to entice a female with. This particular spider will use that very contrasting color, that black contrasting on the green, to draw attention of a female's eyes in a dance. And what he'll do is he'll dance these pedipalps. What this spider does, how he dances with these pedipalps, is a mystery to me, but he will have an elaborate dance that is specific to this genus and this species of spider. And what he'll do is he will act in a way that this female is programmed to accept. If he deviates from that even for one little bit, the female will think that he's a prey species, should jump on him and she'll devour him. But if he gets his dance right with his pedipalps, he'll be able to move close to the female. What he will then do is, pre-prepared in one of these pedipalps is a sperm packet. And he will, using his key at the end of that pedipalp on that boxing glove, insert it into her lock. And that's what they call it. It's called a lock and key mechanism. He will insert this sperm packet, which is sperm sewn into a special type of silk, into her lock. And in some species, this completely fills the cavity. They then remove their pedipalp. In other species, the pedipalp breaks off and is locked then into the female. And that's how this male spider is able to ensure that just his genes are the one that fertilizes all the female's eggs. But these pedipalps are massively long, and I think it is because either the female is quite a large female, or because they are so absolutely camouflaged and will react to movement. Therefore, the pedipalps need to be long so that if she does attack him, he can get out of the way just by losing a limb perhaps, or maybe only losing a pedipalp. But just an absolutely phenomenal find. Literally, I am this far away from this spider. That's how far I'm sitting. I know sometimes with the camera it makes it look a bit shallow. I'm this far away from the spider, and if it wasn't for me bending down to try and smell what this what these flowers smelled like, I would never have seen it. And here we got this lynx spider. There he moves there. You can see those black pedipalps now. Let me move this out of the way so that you can see it. But there he goes. He's just a very leggy guy. Let's see if I can open him up a bit over here. Exactly, Dina, you've noticed those little hairs coming off his legs with this fantastic camera we've got, and it's part of his camouflage, but it'll also be helping him in prey, capturing of prey. I think that he captures grasshoppers. He must capture either grasshoppers or something that stings, perhaps like a wasp or a bee, and they will use those spikes on their legs to hold their prey at bay. I've seen it with quite a few other spiders. They have these spines on their legs and they use it to hold prey at bay. Kicking prey, stinging prey, or biting prey are what's held at bay by those spikes on their legs, and that'll actually be diagnostic when you go and try and identify the spider, or when I go and try and identify the spider back at camp for breakfast, is that deep green color, those long pedipalps with the black boxing gloves, the legs with those, they look reddish or blackish spikes on them. And then the distribution, i.e. where we are in South Africa, on the eastern side of South Africa, in the Kruger National Park, the central Kruger National Park, you'll find that spiders are very highly range specific, and that'll help you identify the spider. But I think it's one of the lynx or one of the wolf spiders, and I think it's a male with those long beautiful pedipalps that is now actually tucked up underneath his mouth. Frank has been very astute this morning, and he thinks that it's a green lynx spider. And you know what, Frank, I'm actually going to say yes, exactly. That's what my memory tells me. As a young man, one of my first natural history books I ever got, as a young man, I'm talking about when I was 3 years old, I was given a spider book, and in that book is this spider. Green lynx spider has just jogged my memory from a little boy on a Sunday afternoon in the sunshine, paging through this book, endlessly paging through this book. Green lynx spider, that's exactly what it is. Male green lynx spider. And what a treat. I must be honest with you, I never thought that I'd ever see one of these in my life before, and I'm so happy that we've got this wonderful camera, we've got this wonderful system, and we're in this wonderful place. But anyway, let's carry on. There's many more wonders to see. And Susie would like to know if the spider's venomous. Susie, generally the lynx spiders are not that venomous, not for us at least anyway. They're very venomous for the prey that they catch. Lynx spiders are very fast, agile little hunters. He'll be hunting in that plant or green litter and pounce onto insects. And spider venom it's funny like this. Spider venom is a protein that's keyed to specific prey species. We react to, for instance, the recluse spiders or the widow spiders or sack spiders or violin spiders, some species of crab spider. Humans react quite badly to it. But in others, insects react quite badly to it. You can imagine this spider trying to catch a wasp, for instance, with a big sting. His venom is going to need to incapacitate this wasp very, very quickly. So he's going to pounce on it, use those legs, those spiny legs, to keep the thorns or keep the mouth parts away, bite that prey species, and immediately that prey species will be immobilized. And that is one of the key features of that venom. This particular spider, not venom for us, but might be deadly for a wasp or a bee. But that's that for me for the spider. You're going back to James. We're going to carry on to the next drainage line.
That she made yesterday, and that'll keep her busy for a little while. But if she's put it in a tree, we might just be able to spot it from the southern boundary. I don't know. That's the general plan. We'll see what else we can find on our way. Marvellous having the older mystic boer out on walks today. His knowledge of the small aspects of the wilderness, and indeed the larger aspects of the wilderness, I find fascinating just about all the time. Some of the best experiences I've had out here at Djuma have been on walks with old Steph. I say old Steph, full in the knowledge that he's a year younger than I am, which is a source of deep consternation and hurt for my heart. Let's see what else we can find. Lots of bird calls. Very large warthog over there. Running away. Stop running away, warthog. Yes. Stand still. A very large warthog, everyone. A very large warthog sow. She's the Beyonce of warthogs, this one. She's voluptuous. I don't believe I actually just said that. But this is live, it cannot be taken back. What I would like you to do, apart from forget that I described this warthog as the Beyonce of warthogs, you could see there, she's got huge tusks for a warthog, and underneath those tusks you can see the bottom ones. You can't see them anymore. You might be able to just, as she chews, those two bottom canine teeth which rub up against the top canines every time she chews. They are the razor sharp ones that you've got to watch out for, and they are the defensive mechanism that this warthog will use if she's ever attacked by anything. You can just see them there, and they are razor sharp. They occlude or rub against those top tusks every time she chews, and it means that they will slice up anything that she might get them into. So you'll find that leopard, although they're about the right size to be eating warthogs like this, are very wary of them, and it's often only male leopards that will take a warthog like this. So although Karula is sitting with a fully grown male impala at the moment, which weighs about the same as this female warthog, it's highly unlikely that a female leopard the size of Karula would take a warthog like this. But Tingana, you would have some very pleasant bacon on the back end of this Beyonce of warthogs. All right, Dory, you're in North Carolina or South Carolina, I forget which, and you want to know about that warthog sow that we saw the other day, a much smaller warthog sow than this, much smaller tusks, and she had some of her insides, unfortunately, hanging out of a fairly narrow wound just in front of her, was it her right hip, or her, I think it was her left, no, it was her right hip, and you want to know what happened to her? I don't know. We haven't seen her again. I'm hoping that she's either been put out of her misery by a predator, or that she's healed or died quietly. As I was saying, a lot of you were saying, well, it would be so nice to put her out of her misery. So often with these animals, you find that they recover from the most horrendous injuries, things that you'd never expect them to be able to. So it was definitely the right thing to just leave her be and let nature take its course. This is a much older sow. She's been particularly confiding to us. So often they run away, that's why I began whispering as we arrived here. Look at her lovely mane of hair down her back. It looks perfectly salon quality, that does. Beyonce pays a lot of money to have her hair done in the same fashion. Go a little bit forward and see if we can't get another view of her. Well, Dave, you know, once we've started it, I suppose we should just go with it.
Yep.
There goes Beyonce. Now, interestingly, you know, we were chatting about the heat balance that elephants achieve and how they manage to achieve heat balance. And I said one of the reasons that they are, or, you know, one of the things they're able to do to lose heat, of course, is not have hair. And that warthog is very sparsely hairy. And the smaller you are, of course, the faster you'll heat up, but also the colder you will get. And I find it very interesting that a warthog like this does not have hair, and they are actually prone to sort of shocks of cold. So if it gets very cold very quickly, warthog will often suffer. And I think it's one of the reasons that they live in burrows at night, especially, is because they can then use the warmth, their own body warmth and the body warmth of other warthogs, to stay warm and maintain the body temperature that mammals must. But very sparse hair. And it's normally only the big animals that have sparse hair. That's actually fascinating. I wonder why. They've probably got a bit more covering of fat that gives them a bit more insulation. But certainly it's normally, as buffalo get bigger, they lose their hair. We know that hippo have very little hair, rhino and elephant have very little hair. And then everything else smaller than them tends to be fairly well covered. And the warthog is slightly different. Fantastic warthog sighting. Alright, let's leave Beyonce grazing off into the wilderness there. She sings very nicely today. Perhaps she's recording a new album. That's enough of that. On we go, Dave. All the single ladies, all the single ladies. Let's go across to Steph. He's got another spider.
Well, just on the back of that question that we had a little bit earlier about venomous spiders and venomous spiders to man, myself and Brian have managed to dredge up for you one of South Africa's most venomous spiders, and that's what we're going to try and show you right there. This is a violin spider, and she has a venom that is very, very, very toxic to us. She's got a cytotoxic venom, and that means that it's a cell-destroying venom. But it's so virulent, in actual fact, that if she had to bite you, not only does it create cell breakdown at the bite site, at your skin and in the soft tissue around the bite, but it also moves to all the soft tissue in your body. In other words, to your lungs, to your liver, to your intestines, and to your tummy, basically breaking them down and liquefying a human. So you might think that that little spider over there looks all inconspicuous, but in actual fact, that is one of the most deadly things that we have out here, the violin spider. Luckily for us, she's very slow moving and she lives underneath logs, and really the only time that we would get bitten by a violin spider is by carelessly picking up a stump, or by the male violin spiders, who are actually nomadic, looking for females and sometimes come into houses. But it's quite uncommon, bites of violin spiders, but when you do get bitten by one, it can be quite nasty. Depending on how much venom was actually envenomated into you, it can get quite nasty. Like I said, cytotoxic venom, and just to tie in a little bit with the story from earlier, that is definitely one of the spiders that you don't want to be bitten out by here, unlike that green lynx spider. We're going to put her back underneath her log. That's where she lives, and that's where we found her, and she stays there. After they come out of eggs, the females will walk around. They'll disperse after they come out of eggs. They actually disperse on the wind, believe it or not. The wind would have blown this female down to the ground. She would have walked underneath the stump. She would have found out that it was unoccupied, and she would have built her home there. And she will live her entire life underneath this one stump. It's one of the reasons why when we're off-road, we try not to drive over these stumps. They do harbor the most amazing things. And as you can see, it's a pretty unremarkable piece of wood that's just lying in an unremarkable place here in the bush, and yet has this entire castle underneath it. Annie in Durban has just wanted to know, do we find them in Durban? Now Durban, for all of those of you who are watching around the world, Durban is a town, one of the major towns in South Africa on our eastern seaboard, and very close to where we are. It's probably, other than Nelspruit, it's our largest city, our closest largest city, and absolutely, Annie, you'll find them there. Violin spiders you quite often find in your bathtubs. I've found male violin spiders in my bathtub on quite a few occasions. albeit I have been in the game reserve for more than half my life. But yes, you will find them there. They are quite easy to identify. Lots of people will talk about a violin shaped marking on their back. To be quite honest with you, that marking versus a different type of marking, quite tough. But they're very easy to identify from a picture. Lots of people have taken pictures of these spiders because they have such significance, medical significance, and you can quite easily take a picture with your phone from a safe distance, can correlate it to a violin spider on the net, and you'll see if you'll find one. And then obviously don't touch it, whatever you do. Not a good idea. They're quite aggressive spiders. They will bite when you handle them. But like I said, they just live under these logs over here and they don't really pose much of a present. Paul wanted to know if there's an antidote for this spider bite. Paul, no, as far as I know. There might well be, I just don't know of one. I'm unaware of one. I'm not too sure if they have got an antidote. I don't think you get antidotes for cytotoxic venom. Basically what happens is your cell wall, unlike a plant cell wall which has a stiff or a rigid cell wall around it, we've just got fluid walls. We've got a cell membrane. And what this toxin does is it breaks that cell membrane. So your cell basically opens. And that is across all cells. It's about muscle cells, blood cells, lung cells, intestinal cells. You'll find that these cells open and it releases the contents of the cell, which is made up of mainly fluid with our DNA, or what do we call it? I can't even remember. Mitochondrions and the nucleus, and I can't remember my standard 7 biology so well. But it releases that into the surrounding tissue. I'm basically liquefying you, and that's what the venom does to her prey. She bites the prey, it liquefies the prey, and then she sucks out those juices with her mouth parts. She obviously isn't going to suck out our juices. It's not what they hunt, but the toxin that she produces, or the protein in her toxin, does definitely work on mammal tissue, on our tissue. And she is one of 6 spiders of medical importance in South Africa. We have the button spider, or the recluse spiders. We have the sack spider. We have the violin spider, and we have the 6-eyed desert crab spider. Excuse me, not 6, 4. 4 medically important spiders here. She has the most virulent cytotoxin of all of them, though, and yeah, one of the most common ones we found out here. She was quite easy to find. All right, let's carry on going. And Simon has obviously, because of the remarkable find we had with that green lynx spider, Simon has asked, are lynx spiders invasive into South Africa? Because he's gone to go and research on what these lynx spiders are. And Simon, no, lynx spiders are definitely indigenous. They're definitely not an exotic. However, lynx spiders are very common spiders found throughout the world. So you'll find that on your continent, in your country, and probably in your state, you have lynx spiders that are endemic to your area, but lynx spiders as a whole are very common all over the world. So you do get local lynx spiders. We have quite a few different species of lynx spiders, and that one that we just saw there was a local endemic or indigenous species of spider, the green lynx spider. Absolutely not an invasive species as far as I understand. Nice question though. It's always good to ask about invasive and alien species. In areas like this, quite uncommon to find alien or invasive species. Uncommon, I say, you don't really find them. We have found a snail that seems to be an invasive species, but other than that, not really that much. We live in a really pristine, beautiful place here. But on that note, we're going to send you back through to James, and we're going to carry on through this pathway here and hopefully get to this drainage line we've been meaning to.
I'm not sure I'd describe what Steph's walking along as a pathway so much as a spider gauntlet. I imagine there are a number of you watching who are arachnophobic as we speak, and you're probably cringing every time I say we're going to link across to Steph for him to show you another terrifying arachnid. Obviously the violin spider he just showed you was by far the most terrifying that he showed you. They can be very nasty indeed. What is euphemistically called medically important spiders in this country. Very few of them. 6, I think. I'm sure Steph took you through all of that. Right, we're now on Ledwood Road. The last sighting that I ever had of Quarantine and Konyuma was around here. I always drive along here in the vain hope that I might spot one of them. But then we will hit the Mulwati drainage, which is the big, is another sort of hyperbolic term for the dry stream that runs through the middle of Djuma. We'll hit that, and with any luck we'll get a little view down to the south of the leopard and her babies. I don't think we're going to. I think I'm being over ambitious, but let's hope. Let's see. Richard, you say we've had a Kardashian kudu, a Taylor Lautner buffalo, and a Beyonce warthog. And you want to know if I read the tabloids when I'm on my off time? I don't by default, but I suppose you come across these things if you spend any time on social media at all. You're bound to eventually be bombarded with the nonsense of celebrity lives. So I don't think I'm as au fait with these things as many, but I read the odd thing here and there. One must keep up with social culture, you know, James, otherwise one becomes a dinosaur very quickly. You know, all these young bucks I work with, I have to try and keep up with what they're talking about. Half the time I'm just nodding and waving. Oh, yeah. That's very funny. Don't know what they're talking about. No idea. Janita, you asked a very, very broad question. Are there any developmental conservation projects going on in South Africa right now? Thousands and thousands. The Kruger National Park has got an entire scientific services division which conducts thousands of research projects every year. There are private entities like the Kruger to Canyons Biosphere, Panthera, who we work with, that do extensive research on both people and parks, the animals in the parks, the relationship of tourism to conservation. Every kind of sort of research gets done. There are faculties at just about every single university in the country that are dedicated to environmental sciences and the sort of, you know, the consequences of environment to human beings and to animals. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a very broad question. There's masses of research going on. If you've got something more specific, if I'm being a bit general about it, I can maybe answer that for you. But yes, in general, thousands of research projects going on. Students, NGOs, government, you name it. It's the one thing that our dear government hasn't managed to botch completely is the national park system, which is still very much intact. That is the leadwood. So I'm just looking at. I saw a fig tree growing out of it the other day, but that seems to have been devoured by some nasty predator of fig trees. All right, yeah, we are approaching the Mulwati drainage line now. And we're going to keep a lookout to the left-hand side here and see if we can't spot our favourite friend, Karula, Her Majesty, and George and Charlotte. That's what I shall call the little ones until told to do otherwise. And ease our way down here very slowly. There. Not the leopard, but we can certainly see the people looking at the leopard. We'll have a look. You can't see the leopard, can you?
No.
I don't know that they can either, but no, they can. They're looking up into the fringing riverine vegetation. One of them has a lens almost as long as Brent Leo Smith's, but not quite. I don't think we're going to get a view, I'm afraid, but that's where she is. So, just to give you an idea, that is probably, what, Dave, about 200 meters?
Yep.
She's probably about 200 meters into the south, property to the south of us. And for those of you who are new viewers, human property laws dictate that we cannot cross the border here. But you can see there are no fences. So we had a view of this female leopard aged 12 with her 2 3-month-old cubs yesterday. They were coming along this road and they moved in here. She killed an impala there yesterday and she obviously hung it up in a tree, and then she went to fetch the cubs and brought them through here. And the only way we'll get a good view of her, or any view, is if she has hoisted that kill into a tree. Then we might get a view, but probably not with this camera. I can't see anything there, I'm afraid. Oh, it's almost worse having her this close to the boundary than further away, because we know she's so close and we could just sort of drive in there and look at her. But we're not going to. We don't want to be arrested, do we, Dave?
Nope.
No. Aê!
Oh, legal.
Enjoy your drive, please behave yourselves. Because of that's why his radio went crazy. That's why his radio went crazy. His radio went crazy because of our broadcast equipment. Anyway, that's from Cheetah. I'd like his jersey there. I might steal it from him next time I see him. And he's going to go and see the leopard. Lucky old thing. For those who missed yesterday's afternoon's drive, and well, I have to ask where on earth you were, because coming straight down the hill here as we turned onto it was Karula and the 2 little ones. So special. Go across the step while the signal's bad.
Have a look at this absolutely ginormous termite mound. It's really as big as a small house, to be quite honest. This is a termite mound. Macrotermes. And what got us very nervous was this hole here. And what I mean very nervous is that these holes are quite often lived in by warthog or inhabited by warthog. And warthog reverse into their homes so that their tusks face any danger on the outside, and they'll come shooting out of these holes at tremendous speed. And so walking in front of them is actually quite dangerous. But in this particular instance, this particular hole is now inhabited by a group of porcupine. So this has become a... And I know that because pigs don't leave this that's covered in roots. Lots of roots, lots of these messy entrances. That is definitely a porcupine burrow. What I might actually try and do and see if I can find you some quills to prove my theory. I want to stick my head too deep inside you. I've been growled at by holes before. They quite often leopard also stash cubs inside these things, and I once mistakenly as a young guide, without giving fair warning to the hole before sticking my face in there, stuck my head into a hole and was growled at quite badly. And I'm definitely not that keen on wearing a leopard as a swimming cap. So some more evidence that this is a porcupine hole is right here. And what's happened is these porcupines have started to dig into the roots of these trees, or dig for the roots of these trees. And you can see the evidence thereof. It's definitely not dug by an aardvark, and you can see that just by the roots that have been excavated and chewed on and chewed out. And similarly on this side, there's another one here. So a family of porcupine have moved into this hole and moved into this area, and they'll be here for as long as there's food in this area, and then they'll move on and they'll move into another termite mound, and they'll begin their excavations of the area around there. Nocturnal as well, just like the aardvark and just like the pangolin. So Susie has asked if I can find a quill, and Susie, it's not for lack of trying that I haven't found you a quill, to be honest, and it's debasing my theory of porcupines by the second. But usually porcupines shed a lot of their quills, and usually you find a lot of quills around excavation sites like this. Just right now I haven't found a single quill. I'll carry on looking as we're walking around here, definitely, and hopefully I'll be able to pluck one out to give my theory on this being a porcupine excavation some credibility. And for now, all I'm making is on these messy things. They're messy. Porcupine excavations are messy. The fact that you can definitely see where roots have been pulled out and chewed and discarded haphazardly, that definitely doesn't look like an aardvark or a pangolin excavation who are after termites. That's definitely a porcupine. Although please don't only take my word for it. You're welcome to have your own theory until I can prove it with an animal. Megan, all the way from Ottawa, has asked me to find her a honey badger house. Megan, my favorite animal is a honey badger. I didn't know if you knew that or not. And for years I've been looking for honey badger houses. I know of one honey badger house. It's at a game reserve called Moholoholo, and they've got a honey badger there called Stoffel. I know it sounds like a bizarre name, but Stoffel the honey badger is a very, very famous honey badger, and I highly recommend that you go on YouTube Stoffel the honey badger. He's got a penchant for being a bit of an escape artist, and you can see documented how he escapes from his home. Other than that, honey badgers also live in homes like this, in holes, in termite mounds, and in fallen down stumps, and excavations of their own. They're really good diggers, and they will excavate their own dens and burrows for the day. They're nocturnal in this area. As soon as you start heading towards the Kalahari and the Kalahari Basin, they become more diurnal, and I think it's because the evenings are so cold, and or there's a lack of food there, and they need to just forage for longer periods to sustain their high metabolism. But here you hardly ever see honey badgers during the day. Every now and again you do, and especially on these walks we do get them. But definitely haven't found myself a honey badger home just yet. The closest one I know of is Stoffel and his prison. Alright, so we are going to now, myself and Brian have crossed over the watershed to another drainage line system, and this one is it's quite a bizarre system of drainage lines. As you'll see here in front of us, it's made of these quite shallow depressions, and it's very convoluted. It twists and turns through this environment here, quite deep, flows, and this is one of the drainage lines that fills Vuyatela Dam. And one of the reasons why when it rains really, really hard here, Vuyatela Dam fills up so quickly is because he's got these really big drainage lines draining from inside Buffelshoek through Djuma or Western Gowrie and into Buffelshoek Dam, or excuse me, into Vuyatela Dam. Alright, while we carefully thread our way through here so that we don't yak our way into a buffalo, I'm going to throw you over to James and catch up a bit later.
I do hope he doesn't walk into a buffalo. That would be of great sadness for Steph to walk into a buffalo. We just stopped here because you can see the sun breaking through the clouds there over the Drakensberg Mountains, and the low-hanging cumulus clouds that have sort of formed over the mountains there have caught a sort of subtle golden lemonish light, and I thought it was very pretty, so I thought we'd stop here and have a look there. Anyway, nothing particularly earth-shattering. I did take a picture of it, of course, with this extremely clever app of mine, And I've managed to make it look completely unlike it really does. Now David, of course, is fine for 12. Do you take photographs, David?
I do on occasion.
But he has a very fine eye for these things, and what he's going to do when he shows you this picture that I've taken is he's going to say to me, less is more, in reference to the fact that I have used all sorts of different effects on this photograph. Yes, David, what do you think?
It's quite pretty, James.
But do you think less is more?
Perhaps not in this case.
That's a high praise indeed. Anyway, there we go, new desktop photograph. I'll send it to all who wish to pay at least $700 for it. What a load of nonsense. Okay, just up ahead here is a gnu. A single bull who's found himself a very small postage stamp-sized piece of territory. And I think the mating of the gnus is done. So those females who gave birth this year and very successfully raised their youngsters to about 6 months now, I think they'll all be pregnant. And so this chap over here will be spending increasing amounts of time with herds of impala and zebra. We saw, was it today? It was yesterday we saw the zebra with a wildebeest. Sorry, it was this morning. And I've gone mad. Was it this morning? Was it yesterday afternoon? We haven't seen zebra and wildebeest today, have we?
No, we had some zebra and impala.
We had zebra and impala. Thank you. That's what I thought. Kirsten's going mad. This is because her hair is the same color as that of an impala, and so she's just sort of inherently biased towards them. Because they don't occur in big herds here, and that means that the bulls, if they want to maintain their safety, will have to hang around. This is sort of within their territories. Whatever comes through their territories, they will seek the company of in order to avoid predators. And it's quite a clever idea. He's scratching his head on the bush there, and he was lying down in the clearing here. Sorry, the Graham Drive radio is very loud this morning. He was lying down in the clearing because that's what they do in their little territories. He'll have a rubbing post somewhere around here. He'll have his midden. You can see his midden, Dave. If you come down, you can see this pile of dung here. That's his little midden, which tells everybody that this is his spot. And he'll be close to water. He's not too far from Treehouse Dam, and so that will be the sort of makeup of his little territory. He's a particularly light-coloured wildebeest bull, which I think is quite interesting. I've just started to notice, and it's amazing how many obvious things there are here. How many obvious things there are that you miss. They've got a great variation in colour, do the wildebeest. Alright, we're going to leave him be. Steph has got a very religious insect to show you.
As James says, we've found the most amazing thing in this branch. We've come through a grove of sneezewood trees, and I was just plucking off a leaf, and Brian found this little guy hiding in the leaf litter. But have a look at this camouflage that you're looking at. That is an animal, everybody. Well, not an animal in our sentence, is an insect. And that is a leaf-like... Ooh, I've got branches in the way. Let me just give Brian a hand. That is a leaf-like mantis, praying mantis. And he's using that superb camouflage to hunt for insects that would come and land on these leaves. But have a look at that. Even those fabulous grasping claws on the front of their body look like a leaf. Massive eyes on the head. Obviously it almost has 360-degree vision. Very, very good vision. Picks up movement, silhouetted against the sky as insects will come into land. He will then stalk and shoot out those forearms. Those forearms are triple segmented. In other words, that big bulb in the front underneath the eye actually has a grasping claw, and it is attached all the way on the thorax behind the head and can extend probably probably about the length of the body in front of that praying mantis. They'll shoot out those arms, grasp the prey, bring it to the mouth, and then bite into it, usually just biting the head off, really. Praying mantises have that nasty reputation, or lady praying mantises have that nasty reputation of biting the heads off of their mates. Have a look at that. Curled over abdomen, looking exactly like the leaf that she's on. She's hunting in a sneezewood tree, and these sneezewood leaves look exactly like her abdomen. Have a look at that. Isn't that amazing? And have a look at this camouflage. When we put this tree back together again, there is a very, very deadly little predator that's living inside there for anything that is flying around wanting to land on a sneezewood tree today. And that's at days like this, after we've looked at the violin spider, which can kill you by liquefying your insides, and the wolf spider, which have long spikes on their legs to stick into you, and the praying mantises, which will catch you in the face when you land on the branch. That I'm very happy that I'm a 160-pound man that stands 6 foot tall, walking around as Brian, another equally big giant here, and I'm very happy that I don't get hunted by these types of things, you know. Compared to them, lions and leopard and elephant and buffalo are chump change, really, to be quite honest. Very happy. Let's carry on down here.
Well, we are sorry about you losing picture there with old Steffi and his praying mantis. They've maybe run out of battery. It has come sort of to the end of the drive. Anyway, we may be very lucky and spot something spectacular in the next 4 or 5 minutes. Very nice to be working with Steph out in the field again. Kirsten says there are 5 minutes less to drive. And FAAB. Very pleasant atmosphere of the morning now. It has been quite chilly, and I wonder if this front isn't starting to break up. I don't know. I thought it was going to do that yesterday afternoon. It was quite sunny yesterday afternoon. It was very cloudy this morning as we came across the painted wolves. Of course, there was a lighting. One of the interesting things that happens, of course, is that you can't, and the cameramen are at pains to now try and explain this to us, which is great. I managed to get one compliment for my driving this morning, is that when you are driving along and you're chasing wild dogs on the hunt with guests on the back of the vehicle, you just follow the dogs. But of course, with the camera moving around like this does not make for a great picture. And so, for a long time, in fact until today, I've been shouted at because I keep following animals when they're hunting rather than letting the zoom or letting the camera follow it. And we managed today to stop, and I went for the key and I thought, no, stop. And I took my hand off the key, and we got that lovely picture of the dog running across the front of the screen with the impala running, and it was all static and steady and wonderful. So David said, well done to me there. It was a great compliment. Normally I don't get compliments for my driving. I always know it's coming when Jean-Dre, for example, says, would you like to debrief that sighting? Okay. And then a litany of complaint comes pouring out. And the other day, we nearly lost Dave off the back of the vehicle. We had those lions going across the clearings here, and we were driving along, flying, and I went over a bump and bounced out, and I didn't even look behind me. And no, sorry, I did. As I looked behind me, I just saw Dave's legs in the air. He sat back up. The camera was facing the sky. The lion was running next, and I was going, look at the lion running! And all you guys saw were clouds doing this all over the place. Entirely my fault. We're going to say goodbye to you now. Big thanks to you, David, for your efforts today and every day indeed. And we'll hand you back to Steffi for the final few minutes. See you this afternoon. Bye-bye.
Yeah. What a wonderful morning. You know, it started off in the dark, it started off cloudy, and James, with his promise that he was going to find wild dog, and absolutely goes and finds them. I mean, it was actually quite phenomenal. For myself and Brian, started off a bit slow. We decided to go walk in a block we've never walked before, and things just sort of unfolded for us the whole time. We saw some amazing things. Snoring puddle frog, as far as we've got it, or Trevella sand frog, violent spider, green link spider, something that I haven't seen before, and all these little leaf-like praying mantis. We've seen some worms. It's been a crazy morning. It's been a really pleasurable morning. Oh, and of course the porcupine hole, which I think is a porcupine castle. James, some elephants. The ladies have been fantastic in Final Control. You, as always, all the awesome questions that keep us motivated and keep us going. Really, thank you very much for that. And we'll definitely be available this afternoon for the afternoon drives. Now, I've just been asked a question by James Henry, but I have no idea what it was. I'm getting a bit of static coming through on my radio. But in any case, I just want to say from myself and Brian, from James and from David, and from the ladies in Final Control, absolutely goodbye.